Awesome. Oh, Ross Clarkson. I'm such a huge fan. I love the last Kumite. I thought it was great, man. What was it like doing the last Kumite, man? Tell me about that.
It was very busy. Sean contacted me 6 or 7 months before it started and had the first draft of the script, which to me you couldn't do for the budget because it had a helicopter fighting a helicopter and all this type of stuff. And it's just like, okay, what's your budget? And it's like, yeah, you can't do it for that. So I rewrote it to make it filmable. All the actors were great. Um, it was busy. It was a very tight schedule, but still we had like 24 days, and I was shooting it. I was directing it, shooting it, and operating the camera, and working with the first assistant director and getting everything together.
Well, I absolutely loved it, man. I love that movie so much. I watch it quite a bit. How was Rothrock,
Well,
man?
sorry,
Oh, how was Rothrock? How was she? How was she to work with?
she was great. I mean, they were all wonderful. Matthias Hues, he's the loveliest guy. Everyone's super professional. They've been around the block so many times and fantastic. I mean, to me, it was just unfortunate. Sean wouldn't let me be involved in the post-production. He wanted to do his own thing. In my contract, I have a director's edit, which I would imagine will never see the light of day. And I wasn't involved in the color grading or anything. So I unofficially saw the finished product, which I never even got a copy of. Um, I wasn't particularly happy with it, but there you go. That's life in the film business.
Well, usually the director's cuts are always better, you know.
Personally, I never wanted to do a director's cut. I just said, make one good version and release that. Because again, you've got, separate costs in post-production, which you're going to have to come up against. I mean, do you want that or just put out one good copy, one good, finished product? Didn't sort of end up that way, but there you go.
Oh, right on. Also you did the General Commander with Steven Seagal. Uh,
Yeah.
how was that? How was that?
Um, well, shooting in the Philippines always has its challenge. Um, when the producer first said, we'll shoot in the Philippines, and it's like, really? How about we shoot it in Thailand? That had challenges. Uh, I've worked with Stephen a few times, and he's a very quiet and conservative type of guy. Very knowledgeable. Awesome on the guitar, which might surprise a lot of people. At the end of Attrition, I think he did a little concert for the crew, and I think it was even in the movie. And he was absolutely awesome on the guitar. It's like, damn, didn't know that about him.
Oh, right on, right on. Well, what about Expendables 2? What was that like?
I only worked in on the Hong Kong segment, which was with Jet Li. Stallone didn't actually turn up. Dolph was there. I've worked with Dolph quite a few times. Actually, I just worked with him last year or the year before in the States on another movie. He's a really nice guy. It was great to work with the director. He's an awesome guy. And Jet Li does what Jet Li does. The reason they shot in Hong Kong was that somehow Stallone had upset Jet Li, and he said, "If you want me in the movie, you got to film it in China." And then the production company Millennium, which I've worked with for years, they said, "Does Hong Kong count as China?" And he went, "Yes." Okay, well, we'll shoot in Hong Kong then.
Oh man, that's so cool. Um, So what about Van Damme, man? You've done like a lot of Van Damme movies. What's Van Damme like working with?
He's a nice guy. He's I know sort of way too much about him. Um, yeah, I think I've done 6 movies with him. Not really sure, but also just hanging out with him after work. He's also got an apartment in Hong Kong, so I used to go over there and help him get his computer running properly. Um, Go out with him at some nights and whatever, and he's a nice guy. Actually, I think I'm in Thailand at the moment, and I think he's in Thailand as well. I'm not sure if he's working on a movie or whatever. Um, Nice guy, very sort of dedicated to what he's doing. I was actually over at his place when he had the call from Stallone to be in Expendables, but I think it was Expendables 2. And then Van Damme knocks him back, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? You know, it's Stallone. He goes, oh, I didn't like the character or whatever. So then Van Damme ends up being in number 3.
Oh, do you have a favorite Van Damme movie that you did?
Yes, Replicant. His acting was great. Again, he's playing himself. I think he's awesome when he's got the wig on and he's playing the bad dude because they did a test screening. And the audience said, you know, there's this time gap where we don't see the bad guy. So we actually shot an extra scene in Bulgaria when we're doing another Van Damme film to throw into that. But I thought his acting was great in it. And it was just a very good story and everything. And also JCVD is a good film. It's in French. And personally, I think he should have got the Oscar instead of Mickey Rourke because Mickey got it for The Wrestler. But Van Damme, his acting is completely different when he's speaking his mother tongue, which is French, and you know, crying on camera, and also the film's taken the piss out of him, and he's all on board for that. And
Yeah,
it was a great film.
yeah, I love them both, man. I mean, both of them are great. What about
Yeah.
uh, what about Dolph? Do you got a favorite Dolph movie that you've worked on?
Well, the movie I shot with Dolph, the Russian specialist or the mechanic, depends what country it's in. That was rated one of his best directing films. And Dolph's very easy to work with. And when he was doing wardrobe tests and whatever, I mean, he's up here. He said, oh, what's my best angle? And I said, looking up, because I didn't want to carry a ladder around. And he goes, oh, yeah, you know, get the jawline and whatever. Where with Steven Seagal, he always likes the camera above him to sort of hide his double chin. But again, Seagal is very tall. So you're always standing on boxes and everything to get the camera up. And actually, on one other film, he wanted the camera higher, and it's like, Stephen, the camera's already hitting the roof. We can't go any higher. Sorry.
Oh, what about Ninja with Scott Atkins, man? Scott's great. What's he like to work with?
Well, my first time with Scott was Undisputed 2, and Isaac Florentine, the director, he pretty much sort of gave Scott his break. Well, actually, I think that film was his break. He was in another film with Isaac in a smaller part. But this time he was like second lead, and then Boyka becomes its own identity from it. Um, Scott was great because everyone did all their own stunts. We had no stunt doubles, and he's like a gymnast that does martial arts, so he can flip and bounce and go all over the place. Very dedicated to what he was doing. A funny story about Scott later is he hurt his knee. And it's like, dude, how'd you hurt your knee? And he goes, oh, I was doing some stunts on Batman. It's like, what? Why are you doing that? And he goes, oh, I just wanted to wear the suit. It's like, oh my God. You screwed your knee up just because you wanted to wear the Batman outfit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a great Batman, you know? When everybody talks about who should play Batman, I always pick Scott, man. I think he would be a great Batman.
Just has to deepen his voice a bit.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. He can do that. He's done that a little bit. I think there's been a few movies where he's definitely deepened his voice a little bit.
Well, I think he's also in the running for Bond as well, maybe.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. I could picture him as Bond. He would be an awesome James Bond.
Evidently, they're just having an issue with Amazon and when they're going to start the next Bond film and whatever, and some issue about it.
What about Michael Jai White? What's he like to work with?
Again, I mean, very nice guy. Uh, he directed, what was it, Fight Back? It was also in Thailand. Well, I met him first on Undisputed 2, then he got me to shoot for him on his Thai film. No, Never Back Down 3, I think. And he directed that. He starred in it and brought in some of his MMA buddies and whatever into it and stuff. Also, everyone's just really nice, and even called up what's his name on the phone to do a FaceTime with him. Um, Big dude. I mean, okay, they're all big guys, and that was quite fun just doing a FaceTime with him. I can't remember what his name was, but again, very easy to work with. Everyone just goes about it and no hassle at all.
No, right on. What about The Hills Have Eyes too? What was that like?
Hot, hot and cold in Morocco, and not really sure. I'd met the producer once, and somehow the whole crew was sort of British. The director was German, and somehow I ended up getting over there to operate. Not entirely sure how, but I did. And Wes Craven, who was the producer, who did the original Hills Have Eyes, he came over and there was a video cable running into the offices because he was having some discrepancy with the director. And then somehow Wes starts his own unit and shooting pickups for the movie or something. And I went and did some shots on that. And it's like, on one shot, it's like, oh, but the guy had his left arm cut off. And he said, don't worry about that. Now it's the right arm. Okay, fair enough. Whatever you say. So, these little things come up and it's like, yeah, whatever. Just go with the flow.
All right. What about Conan the Barbarian?
That was fun. Jason Momoa on the first day. I mean, really, they should release that film again now that Jason is a big name because they just got him. That was even before. That was way before Games of Thrones. Even I think what he'd done Baywatch and not really sure what he'd done before. But on the first day in the studio, it was quite steamy. And Jason said, "Who else? Who else here has beads of sweat rolling down the crack of their ass?" And I went, "Yeah, I do." And
Oh,
he's an extremely nice guy and did all the fighting stuff, all the stunts and fights and whatever with him. And the second unit director that I've also known for years, David Leash, ends up doing John Wick and Deadpool.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. What
Okay,
about
I mean, David didn't give me a job on them, unfortunately, but he's sort of gone on to huge things after.
like Scott Atkins? Like he went on to do John Wick. Like he was in
Yeah,
like the last one. I think he was in there.
yeah, with Donnie Yen
Yeah,
and Scott's
I mean,
wearing
which
a
is pretty
fat suit and
cool.
whatever. But
Yeah.
David, he was partners with Stan, and they formed 2711. Not 2711. Uh, a stunt agency and a stunt gym, which really started training stunts. Because also they're buddies with JJ Perry, who was a fight choreographer on Undisputed 2. And JJ came out early to Bulgaria to train the local stunt guys, not about how to fight, but how to react. So, because it's not throwing the punch, it's the reaction that sells the punch, and how they can flip and do all this type of stuff and whatever. And JJ now is directing some decent movies as well. And Larnell, he was fight choreographer on Undisputed 3. And he was directing the second unit for a John Wick series or a spin-off in Croatia or somewhere around the place. So it's like this whole team that I've known for years, they've gone on to much bigger and better things. Okay, I haven't, but they're doing
Well,
very well.
well, I mean, well, I don't know. You did the last Kumite, man. I loved it, man. I mean, you know, what about Statham? What about working with Statham?
Statham is an interesting person because he's Cockney. So I don't know if I can actually say what every second word comes out of his mouth is. You can probably imagine what it is. But when that's with American producers, they're going, "What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him?" It's like, well, nothing. That's just how he talks. And he, don't know how much I can say about it, but he chose the director, but then he didn't want to work with the director. So there was the Jason unit and the Jessica unit on Mechanic 2, which was also in Thailand. But then he kept wanting to watch playback and all the time, whatever he did, and ended up blowing the schedule out of the water. So they actually ended up finishing it, I think like 6 or 8 months later in Bulgaria on this boat that they had. They had to build the back of it and shoot it on green screen and try and get Tommy Lee Jones back in and stuff. And it was quite an issue to get the movie finished because I had to work in with his schedule, but he just blew the schedule out of the water just because he was wasting time. But extremely fit dude. There was one shot where he's climbing up the side of the boat, and I was going to walk back to follow him, and he's up there at 100 miles an hour. It's like, damn, I really was not expecting that.
Oh, right on,
I
right on.
went running backwards and nearly fell over. It's like, just, holy shit, dude. Did not see that coming at all.
Right on. Well, do you have a favorite like Steven Seagal movie that you've worked on?
I still think it was before my time. Um, his recent movies, if it's not a close up, it's not him. It's just all double doubles. And Under Siege is a great movie, and I don't think it'll ever be beaten by him.
Uh,
Uh, whether his heart's just not in it anymore.
uh, well,
Oh,
actually, there's a wrestler, Rob Van Dam. And he worked on he was in a Steven Seagal movie, and I asked him about it. Like I was like, "Hey, what's it like working with Steven Seagal?" And he's like, he wasn't in the we had like no scenes together. Cause kind of like what
oh,
you were saying, like they like shoot it like he's with him, but he's not with him. So I was like,
yeah.
"Oh man."
And in Belly of the Beast, it was a Hong Kong director, and the fight doubles were Hong Kong guys who are half the size of Seagal, wearing fat suits and dressed up in wigs and whatever, and they're running up walls and flipping and jumping. It was absolutely hilarious. I mean, there's no way you'd actually believe Seagal's doing it,
Oh,
but it's just so funny.
oh, right on, right on. Um, So what's your favorite movie that you've worked on? Like
I'd say
out of
Undisputed too. It was
oh
just So many things went right on it. The weather, it snowed and which looked great. We shot in a real prison, which looked brutal and fantastic. Just the locations, everything, and a very good story. It's emotional at the end with the old guy, the acting, the fights, JJ's choreography on the fights. Isaac did an amazing job because the first Undisputed was a boxing film with Wesley. And then when Millennium got the rights to it, and they approached Isaac, to do the second one, Isaac said, well, I don't want to do a boxing movie. I want to make it martial arts, which reinvented all the martial art films that started to kick off afterwards, came after Undisputed 2. Because where Bloodsport back in the day had a surge of martial art films, and then they died off to car chases and gunfights and everything else, then Isaac brought it back on Undisputed 2. And to me, it's just the look of it. There's a crane shot of when Michael's tied up in the yard. It's real snow. It's minus 15 degrees at a real prison. And my foot kept slipping off the crane as we go up past him or whatever to reveal the whole prison and everything. It's just, I think it's beautiful. And when we were staying in a village close to the prison and the shower was so small, Michael said he could only wash half his body at a time because there was only half of it would fit in the shower. So have to wash this half, get out, turn around, and wash the other half. Michael is quite a big boy.
Oh, yeah. What about Kickboxer, man? What about working on that?
The new one with Elaine,
Yeah.
uh, that was fine. I didn't come in at the beginning. I came in, I don't know, a couple of weeks later. I know that as camera operator, they had an issue with whoever the first guy was. Um, that was again fun because we had half Thor, the the strongest dude in the world, whatever, who's huge, absolutely massive, and his wife now or girlfriend then, she's like half the size or not even half the size, and he just keeps eating non-stop in between takes, feeding food, feeding food. Uh, he was very quiet guy. It seems the bigger they are, the more quiet and low key they actually are until they get on the camera. Um, but it was good. I mean, Van Damme was there, Mike Tyson was there. Um, good turn up. Nice.
What was Mike Tyson like? What's he like?
Extremely nice. I mean, he wasn't there for long, but again, just very nice. I mean, they got nothing to prove, no ego, whatever. Just turn up, do the job, and that's about it.
Oh, right on. Well, that's good to hear, man. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, what about The Order with Van Damme?
Oh, that's going back. I had, let's see, I actually hold the record for the most films with the Hong Kong director Ringo Lam. And he was pretty much like my Chinese father. Because after I went to Hong Kong, I worked for a film company for 7 years, and I left them just after the handover. And I'd done some underwater filming for a different Hong Kong movie. And then Ringo wanted some underwater stuff for a movie, Full Alert. And that's when I met Ringo. And then I got on well with Ringo, even though he had a reputation for really bad temper and stuff. But on this first job, it's like, well, he actually seems like a really nice guy and stuff. That didn't last long. Until then, he said he actually just lived sort of down the road in Hong Kong from me, and he calls me up and says, come and have a coffee with me. And then he says, "Oh, do you want to shoot my next movie?" And I went, "Sure, why not?" Which was in the Philippines, where he wanted to do something like Die Hard in the Philippines, tons of explosions and helicopters and things, and that's when I started to see a bit of his temper come out. But then did a few movies with him in Hong Kong, and then he was directing Replicant. So he took me to Canada, and that's where I met Van Damme and got on well with Van Damme. And then Van Damme brought me to Israel and Bulgaria for The Order. So that was how I hooked up with Van Damme. And Sheldon, the director, the DP, David, someone, can't remember what his actual name was. That was a very long time ago. Um, then they had the bad guy, another big guy, Brian someone, and they had a half sword for some of the sword fights. But he actually misjudged and he hit the front of the camera on the matte box, but he hit it so hard it sort of bent rods. Luckily, it didn't break the camera. But when he was a huge guy, and when he actually came down and hit, there was a huge amount of power there. Lucky he didn't have a real sword.
Oh, right on, right on.
On
Well,
actually on Ninja, which was also with Scott, the first one, the fights were with real swords, but there's a good separation between them because they're real swords, and even they dull them, they take the edge off them, they're still sharp as. And you wear, like, have your shin guards in football, you wear them on your forearm, so if someone does catch you, it's not going to cut your arm off and whatever. But you have to use real swords because they're just shiny. So you have big white reflectors around, just so however the sword is angled, you just get that little glint off it.
no, right on.
Got to be
Well,
careful with swords.
yeah. Uh, um. Well, one last question because I don't want to take up too much of your time. What was it like working on In Hell with Van Damme?
Fine, that was another Ringo movie. Um, Ringo would treat Van Damme so badly on set, where, instead of, some directors like try and kiss the ass of an actor and stuff, Ringo would do the complete opposite, where Ringo would always sit there smoking and tapping his foot, and he goes, Jean-Claude, because he, I don't know, couldn't say his name properly. Jean-Claude, very good. Next time, try acting.
Uh, yeah.
But on that one, a lot of fights, and the the first guy we had was the first AD to play the big-footed bad dude, but somehow on the fight arena outside, there was a gap between the mats, and he twisted his ankle. And that guy, he was actually the first AD. He wasn't meant to be the actor, but Ringo liked him because he's huge. And so they had to bring in another guy to take over um, the role, who was Michael Bailey Smith, who was also the monster in Hills Have Eyes, too. Well, actually, all the Hills Have Eyes. So we hooked up again. It seems we keep running into the same people all the time. For a big film industry, it's a small world.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been so
Pleasure.
cool of you to do. I love I love the last Kumite, and I love like all your movies. I think
Thank you.
the ones I've seen. You've done so many, man. There's so many on that list.
Well, hopefully I can do some more.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. All right, man. I'll see ya.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Bye.